Facebook Marketplace is a beautiful place where you can find anything you could possibly want. New, used, beat to shit, doesn't matter. Well, in my scrolling this morning, I found a wood chipper for sale for 50 bucks. It doesn't run, but I'm gonna make it run. Ooh, that's good for it, right? What I have managed to acquire off of Marketplace is a 19 I don't know wood chipper. The model serial sticker says Sears Roebuck. So this thing is definitely older than I am. The interesting thing about this specific one is that it is belt driven instead of direct drive off the motor. The slightly newer versions of these, the motor was actually rotated 90 degrees, so the shaft went that way and actually just bolted directly to the flywheel instead of being run off of a belt like that. This model is actually supposed to have two chutes. Obviously, the big one for your brush if you're trying to pick up pine cones and leaves and such like that. But it's also supposed to have another chute here because as this flywheel spins, there is two chipping blades on the flywheel that just kind of eat apart the branch as it's being fed in. And then looking at it from the bottom, after those two blades chip apart the bigger branches, these spin around at Mach Jesus and just beat the crap out of everything. This is supposed to be held up like that with a pin, and it gets trapped in there until it's small enough to fall out these holes and ends up on the ground. But before we figure out the problem with the chute being obviously missing and pinning up that little guard, we need to get this thing running. So now the fun begins. So continuing on with the wood chipper project, this thing needs to run. So I have the clutch kind of zip tied in place. That way the blades are not being engaged, just so I can work freely on this without adding the extra stress of the flywheel and all that right out of the jump. And first things first, with any old motor, you gotta make sure you have compression. I hear it popping. That's a good sign. So, look at the spark plug next. Came right out. So the spark plug was kind of gummed up, but I jumped the gun and cleaned it up a little bit with a wire brush, just like they did in the old days. This old champion will probably still kick just the way it is. At least enough to get this thing running. So the next thing I notice is that the fuel lines are just completely disconnected from both ends. It does have a nice shut-off switch. Hopefully that's still good. But I do believe there's supposed to be some kind of throttle cables between, maybe not the choke, but at least for your throttle arm here. And I'm not quite sure what this one does. But I think this motor is a little bit too old to be controlled by vacuum. I really do think that it needs some throttle cables attached somewhere to the carburetor. So we need to figure that out too. So I cleaned off the spark plug. There's no air filter to clean. We don't worry about that. Gave it a little bit of go juice. Now I got it to fire once already. Let's see if we can do it again. That's the thing that I love about small engines. You need fuel, air, and a spark. We got our liquid dinosaur. The spark sparks, and you don't need to worry about a clogged air filter because it's not there. But we got it running. Alright, day 2. I did a little tinkering with it. It is not vacuum controlled. It does need throttle cables or push rods of some kind. I tried making my own. It did not work out. But this actually ended up being the exhaust valve. So I need one that goes from the exhaust to the throttle, and then from the throttle on the carb to the throttle here. As of right now, it'll kind of idle, but it is not happy about it. So I'm going to get some parts ordered for it, and we'll try again another day. Wood chipper project, part 3. Hopefully this thing will be chipping by the time I'm done. Got some throttle rods from Amazon. Unfortunately, I don't think this is how it's supposed to go, because this one came from Amazon here. that goes to the governor. This one that also came with it is too long and or too short to cooperate. So I kind of made my own out of a cotter pin. That seemed to have worked pretty well. It only runs at half choke, but it will run. My throttle cable will work good enough until I eventually find one, or just gonna let it rock. Now the fun part, putting on the belt so we can engage that flywheel. Hoop. Ah, that's better. Well, doing the thing. It runs. The spinny spins. That thing shakes so violently that it's going to cause its own earthquake once I start mulching up branches. Ended up not using the new belt because it is too small diameter, but also really thick. So there's that. So we're basically running it how it is, and we're going to mulch some branches. Do you have a problem in your neighborhood that you can't legally take care of yourself? Introducing the Pedo Fuckerator 5000. This thing will fuckerate any pedo that you can fit into there. You might have to cut them into pieces, but it'll get the job done. Oh. Using fallen tree limbs as an example, you can use this to remove any neighborhood problem you may have. Big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. It can do it all. Until it snaps a drive belt, then you go get another belt, and you continue on with your day. So the Pedo Fuckerator 5000 will turn any of your pedos into a pile of that in a matter of seconds.
He was putting the little one in the wood chipper, eh?